Everything that's gone on, it's been a roller coaster of a World Series, and tonight's the final night of Major League Baseball.
Well, it doesn't happen that often. We had one in 2011, and before that there wasn't one since 2002, which was not a happy memory for those of us who were with the Giants at that time. And I was there in 2001 when the Yankees and D-backs had a Game 7, and for me that was one of the most memorable games you could possibly have. Great pitchers matched up. It was Curt Schilling pitching his third game in that World Series. He was working on 3 days rest for the second straight time, and he was up against Roger Clemens. And Roger Clemens at that time was the oldest starting pitcher ever to start a Game 7. That record is going to be beaten tonight by Tim Hudson. So with that connection, I'm hoping that maybe this game will live up to that one, because that was a classic game, and it ended up that in spite of it all, Alfonso Soriano hit a home run in the 8th inning, and the Yankees were ahead 2-1. And with 2 down in the 8th inning, Bob Brenly, he had brought in Batista in relief of Schilling. Batista got an out, and then he brought in Randy Johnson. Randy Johnson had pitched the day before, and he got the final out, and then he retired to side an order in the 9th inning. But there was the great Mariano Rivera with a 2-1 lead in the bottom of the 9th, and some well-timed hits, and a bad throw on a bunt by Mariano, and sort of a lapse by Scott Brocious. Mariano on another bunt got the force out at third, and Brocious could have gotten the double play and never make the throw to first. And so those 2 mistakes really conspired against the Yankees, and Luis Gonzalez hit the broken bat bloop over a drawn-in infield, and that's how the great Rivera finally blew a World Series game, and Arizona won it all. So that was a great series, and it was soon after September the 11th, which was sort of something that was very much a part of that World Series, especially the Yankee game. So at Yankee Stadium. So that was a great 7th game, and those are the kind of games you think of when you think of Game 7s. The Giants, when I was a kid growing up in the Bay Area, had a 7th game when I just turned 11 years old with the Yankees, and they were behind 1-0 in the bottom of the 9th inning with 2 down and a runner at first, Matty Alou, and Willie Mays hit a double into the right field corner, and Alou was held up at third. Roger Maris on a wet field. It had rained for 4 days in a row before that game. Roger Maris fielded the wet ball and made a perfect throw to Bob Richardson, the second baseman, who was a Gold Glove second baseman. He fired home, and it really appeared that they had to stop Alou. If he'd kept going, he would have been out by several feet. Although Willie Mays always will, and if you saw him right now, he'd say, "Let me just put it this way, I wish it had been me running, I believe I would have scored." So, and he could say that, I guess, because he's Willie Mays, right? And he was fast, and he was one of the greatest players in the history of the game. But he wasn't the runner. He was at second on his double. And Willie McCovey came up next, a future Hall of Famer, 521 home runs, a left-handed batter, and Ralph Terry, a right-hander on the mound, a right-handed hitter on deck. Orlando Cepeda, another future Hall of Famer. And Ralph Houck, the manager, went out to the mound, not to change pitchers. He had a left-hander, Louis Arroyo, ready in the bullpen, but to ask Ralph Terry, which one of these guys do you prefer pitching to? And he said, I want to go after McCovey. And McCovey hit a laser beam. Could not have hit the ball any harder. And in one moment, it looks like a game-winning hit, and the Giants win the World Series, a 2-run single. And no sooner had that moment come and gone, and we're talking about a second, when it was a line drive right to Bobby Richardson, and he caught it chest high, and the World Series was over. And that's how close the Giants came to winning that 7th game, and that stuck with a lot of Giants fans for a long, long time. They did not get back to the World Series for 27 years after that disappointment. And so you've got to seize the moment when these opportunities come. And for the Giants, for those of us who were there in that time, for those of us of a certain age from San Francisco, this 7th game, I think, is something that we'd like to see finish a little bit differently for McCovey and Mays and Marichal and Cepeda, those great Hall of Famers who were on that team and who were at Game 1, the first game, Game 3, the first game in San Francisco of this World Series for the pregame ceremony. So that left us sort of a bad taste in the mouth of a lot of those people. So those are the kind of things that live with you in a Game 7, and I just hope that there's no mistake that somebody makes that leads to the win. You know, no moment that, because those moments linger with a player, and you don't want to wish that on anybody. So, so hopefully, whatever does happen, it'll all happen cleanly, and we won't have any, as they say in baseball, the old-time expression of baseball was, there won't be any goats in this World Series Game 7.